We were told it was going to be a bad storm, and we've had flooding down here before where it just pretty much filled the street, maybe came up a little bit, ankle deep, knee deep at most. But the sounds that we heard that started that Saturday and then progressed Sunday and then Monday night, it was terrifying. The winds were so constant with these big gusts, and it shook the house. And you know, I live in a two-story house, pretty solid house, and it was shaking our house, and it was very, very scary. You know, our power was out. You know, it's pitch black in the neighborhood. There was a gas leak. You could smell gas in the air, natural gas. There was sirens everywhere. You could hear the water. It was terrifying.
From a distance, most everything looks okay. The coastlines ravaged by winds and water months ago appear to be back to normal. And for those of us living in other areas of the country, relief efforts for America's perfect storm aren't featured in the evening news anymore. But as you take a closer look, it's clear that for thousands affected by Hurricane Sandy, recovery will be their focal point for years to come. That's why Joyce Meyer Ministries' missions outreach, Hand of Hope, is still actively involved.
What do you see as the future for you getting through this? How are you going to do this?
I don't know. I have to be strong.
Nancy is one of the thousands who have to be strong and reach out for recovery. We met her in Ocean City, New Jersey, and she is very grateful that God has brought help and support through His loving people.
Tell me about Nancy. What did you find when you went to Nancy's house?
Yes, or Nancy was one of those ladies that doesn't have insurance. She's elderly. She's lived in this house. She was gripped with fear, which we're finding a lot of elderly people are gripped with fear, unable to make simple decisions about ripping out the carpet and the bed and the sofa that's sagging.
Because the questions are, what will I do after I rip those out, even though you can't keep what you have because it's ruined?
Yeah, she lives on just menial Social Security, and so she doesn't even have the ability to repair or replace.
It is cold up here.
Yeah.
Wow.
And when you're wet.
Nancy climbed this ladder up to her attic more than 24 times as the storm ravaged her home, carrying any precious items she could save.
I was afraid of that cold, and I didn't know how long I had to stay there, and I just couldn't get warm.
How long did you stay in the attic?
I don't know. I really don't know.
We found her and just simply coming in and helping her make decisions, giving her water. She was dehydrated. She'd been living, you know, on just a few eggs, as she had said, some Halloween candy that she was eating. So.
And how long was she in that attic?
You know, I think we were probably thinking maybe 3 nights.
So many people lost, you know, their history, their family pictures and everything. And that's why I took 20 steps, 20 times coming up there, because I saved just everything. I have a love letter from my father to my mother. Aww. I saved all that stuff. So that's why I'm fortunate.
Yeah.
I really, really am.
As time passes, the regions devastated by Hurricane Sandy improve little by little every day. However, remember, behind every image of a home destroyed, there's a person like Nancy trying to find strength in their greatest hour of need. Yes. Together, we are doing what we can to help. There's still a long road of recovery for Nancy, but she's surrounded with people of God, sharing the love of Christ, so she'll make it.
It's a lot of pressure on you right now, isn't it? There's a lot to think about.
Well, I didn't think so until this morning. It's the first time I cried. And I didn't think I was going to. Maybe it's good. And dear Pastor Brennan there, he's talked to me on the telephone. I felt real good afterwards.
Yeah.
Real good.
The only way to tackle a relief effort of this magnitude is for everyone to do what they can. Hand of Hope is teaming up with other agencies to provide help and support. One such partner is Disaster Relief and Disaster Training, also known as DRAT. Their mobile disaster unit travels into situations like this and trains churches and volunteers how to effectively assist in their community's greatest time of need. DRAT is leading the way in helping individuals like Nancy begin recovering.
Chance Craven and the DRAT team have been absolutely phenomenal. You know, we had 2 other agencies here, and they've got boots on the ground. They're doing their own work. What DRAT does, and I think this is excellent for churches and ministries, is they come in and they gave us systems that we could use. Because when the other ministries leave in a few weeks, we're still here. This is my local neighborhood. I live just a few blocks from here. I have church people that live around the corner from here. My son plays soccer down the road over here. And so we're helping local people with the systems that DRAT's been able to implement. And I know Joyce Meyer sponsored and Hands of Hope sponsored the RV that they're in. They're not using our electricity. They're not using our heat. And so they're coming in self-supported, and it's been phenomenal to work with them.
Nancy, it's cold outside. Yeah. Florida boys aren't used to this.
Tell me about the idea behind DRAT. Not only disaster relief, but disaster training.
So we realized time and time again that every disaster is different in the aspect of the damage. It may be a flood, maybe a tornado, maybe an ice storm. But the constant thing in every disaster is you have people that need help and people that want to help. And so the relief side is obviously we're connecting those two to achieve help. But the training side is we're coming in, we're training churches before a disaster happens of how to go out in their community and be the hands and feet of Christ.
Mm-hmm. Or even like this in the midst of a tragedy, so that when you leave, they know what to do?
Yes, ma'am. It's come in and establish a system so that long after we're gone and even other relief organizations are gone, the local church has the ability to identify needs and then coordinate resources and volunteers to meet those needs.
How willing and ready are people to jump in and learn how to do what they can?
Beyond willing and able. It's anytime, whether people are a Christian or not, I think all of our hearts were compelled to give. And so whenever disaster happens, both Christians and non-Christians, they just want to go. And they're looking for somebody to point them in the right direction. And so what better person or place to do that than the local church?
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about Hurricane Sandy in particular. What did you find when you came here?
I think the first thing that we found was a church just willing to do anything. And we arrived on property. The church was already in the community helping. The pastor was going door to door. The pastor had elders and just a congregation willing to get out in the community. And so even before damage, we were able to find a church that's like, our community's affected, we're going to do something about it.
So when you look at the opportunity to do this, together with Hand of Hope, together with the local church, together with the partners of Joyce Meyer Ministries, there's a real synergy that kind of happens to make it all possible, isn't there?
There is. And it's, David Meyer always says that together we are better. And disasters, I think, are one thing that really proves that, because you can't have a church that does everything. And so the church in the disaster is then surrounded and supported by churches outside of the disaster. And partners of Joyce Meyer, Hand of Hope, disaster relief organizations just begin to work together so that people get help.